Let you talk Greg Simpson, and he will give us a brief outlook on the green lentils on Canada.
Basically, you can see that Canadian lentil production was quite good last year, and we also have a very large carry-in still of old crop lentils from 2010, where we had a record production year. So you can see the carry-in figure is at about 500,000 tons, and that consists mainly of red lentils. There is still old crop 2010 crop in that mix, and there'll be no Eston lentils to speak of at all. We're completely sold out of 2011 crop Eston, and there could be a few containers here and there laying around, but basically you can consider Canada sold out for Eston supplies until new crop. There's no French greens left. But I would say about 100,000 tons or so of layered lentils would make up that 500,000 tons of carry-in. In terms of large seeded layered production for 2011, we're estimating around 990,000 acres to produce a little over 500,000 tons of layers for next year. Small seeded lentils, because there's been a lack of supply and very high prices right now, will be encouraging farmers to produce more of the Eston type lentils. So you can see the acreage is at 250,000 acres. The major decline this year will be in the red lentil production area. We had very low prices for reds, and as you can know, the cure for low prices is low prices. So there's a fairly significant contraction of lentil production, largely in red lentils. And in the other lentil category, there's richly lentils are included in there, some French greens, some Spanish brown Iberina variety, French greens, and a few belugas. So our total production, we're estimating around 2.1 million acres. And the rest of the numbers there, you can see the domestic utilization is quite high, as a lot of lentils are still being shipped out as feed, especially the 2010 quality crop. And there's our export figures of 1.2 million total exports, and there's our carryout. So we are starting to see a decline in our carryout figures.
Thank you, Greg. I have a question for you. How do you think the weather conditions can impact on the next seeding in North America?
Okay, once again, I have a slide. I think everybody here knows that last year Canada had one of the warmest winters on record. I believe it was the 5th warmest year. We had virtually no snow cover, and so we had no moisture conditions. As a result, were really dry over the winter. Snow is not our major source of moisture, however. It usually provides about 25% of our moisture. So subsoil moistures are now become a significant factor in terms of what's going to impact our production. If you go back a year, for the last 2 years, the southeast part of Saskatchewan was flooded. The blue area in the southeast corner of that map, you can see, is still saturated. And that's why it's the blue color. So even though surface conditions are maybe a little on the drier side, there's still good subsoil moisture. And then as you move across the prairies and go into the southwest corner, you'll see where it's critically dry in some areas. There's been some recent cooler and some showers coming through, so there is some opportunity for good germination still. But I think for green lentils, there is a high degree of risk of problems in that southwest, south central area. It's now really going to be a weather market as we get it past seeding. You'll want to watch the weather conditions on a regular basis. From what I understand, we're shifting from an El Nino phase to a neutral phase right now, which means as we move into an El Nino, typically that means hotter, drier conditions. If that in fact does happen, our green lentil production will not be as high as I estimated. So the figures I've presented there on the previous slide are based on normal, and if this southwest, south central region turns dry in July, the potential is for substantially reduced yields. The Eston lentil production, some is shifted into the east or southwest corner, I should say, this last year, but principally the Estons are grown in the Moose Jaw Regina area, where there's that's in the green zone, and some of the blue. So Eston production I don't see is going to be as at much risk as compared to Laird.
Okay, our next panelist is Dirk Butcher from Viterra. Hello, Dirk. So, can you please give us your opinion, and can you extend what's going to happen on North America and the green lentils on 2012, please?
Greg did a good job of covering the Canadian side of it. I'll give you my opinion on the U.S. production, and then maybe we'll have some discussion during the question and answers about the, North America as a whole. On the U.S. side, Greg showed some numbers on the Canadian side where we've got reduced planted acres due to competing crops. In the U.S. side, we're competing with the same oil seeds, the same cereal grains, the same higher values across the board, but at the same time, we also had significantly reduced plantings this last year due to weather conditions. And so when you look at the numbers, we've had USDA came out with their planting intentions, and also the U.S. Dry Pea and Lentil Council came out with their numbers. Not a lot of variation between them, but between 10 and 20% increase in green lentil plantings for this coming season. So my number is right in the middle at about 500,000 acres. Most of that is made up of green lentils. There's very limited acreage of red lentils in the U.S., and I think that's continuing to decline. Then of that 500,000 acres, we probably will have somewhere around 45,000 acres of Pardinas, maybe a little higher, but that acreage has been impacted by increases in chickpea production in the Pacific Northwest, and the growers Pardinas have been at a premium value to other lentils, and I think that because of chickpea values and it competing on the same ground, we'll see that situation continue. We're seeing a slight increase in the Eston type small green lentils in the U.S., but there was a shortage of seed this spring, and really not a lot of experience with the growers producing that type. We see a good increase in eastern Montana, an increase in kind of northwestern North Dakota, but it's not a significant increase. And then the balance of the acreage is really made up of a medium green lentil, so either a Richley or a U.S. regular, and that's where the bulk of the increase is coming back closer to the production levels that we had 2 years ago. So overall, I'm thinking we'll produce 225, maybe depending on weather conditions as high as 250, but it could be 200. Weather conditions look good right now, but in Washington and Idaho, we'd like to be in the field. It's raining. In Montana and North Dakota, we're in the field, but we're maybe 15% planted. So things look good at the moment, but it's the middle of April. So I look forward to some questions and a good discussion as we move on, but I want to hear what these guys on the rest of the panel have to say.
You know, my Spanish colleagues want me to make a very, very particular question about Pardinas. Would you dare to give a range on price on next crop Pardina lentils?
This spring, because we saw, as an industry, we saw the acreage shifting into chickpeas and away from Pardinas, and we have a lot of history with Pardinas in Washington and Idaho production area, and as we saw that acreage starting to shift, the industry went out with some very aggressive new crop contracts to encourage the planting of that. There's been very little grower support at those levels, and those levels are really at today's market. So the values that we're seeing moving into the SIFT market, that really reflects I'll call it a low of 9 and a high of 900 and a high of 1,000. I anticipate that we'll start, or we will have to maintain that type of value for that special niche lentil. The growers are in a very strong cash position. They've shown to us that you know, they don't need to sell. We need to meet their expectations to pull it out of the bin, and so I think we'll be in that range going forward, unless we have some weather event.
Said is one of the main players in Algeria on lentils, with an approximate volume of 25,000 metric tons at least. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I would like you, Said, to talk a little bit to the audience about North Africa in general, and then in particular about Algeria, from the demand point of view, of course.
Thank you. Well, first of all, North Africa consumes about 90,000 tons of green lentils altogether between Estons and Lerts. As far as Algeria is concerned, we consume about 60.
Put it closer.
As far as Algeria is concerned, we consume about 65,000 tons. So this year, what happened with all that crash on the price, Algeria did import between August until January about 55,000 tons. And but the problem is the fact that most of that, 75% of those 55,000 tons, they're old crop. So there's about 25% of that would be new crop. So actually right now, Algeria is covered, because we have Ramadan is coming, and the peak consumption is between August and January. And so whatever we have left, I mean, what's left to be consumed, actually the stocks right now remaining in Algeria are about 35,000 tons. And most of it is old crop. So everybody is trying to get rid of it by selling very cheap, just to be able to start buying the new crop. But it's not going to be for the next, probably right after Ramadan. So actually it's covered, you know. But I do think that the demand did come in Algeria on the wrong time, right when all old crop in Canada, there was a lot of old crop right before new crop. And so the demand came right before the new crop comes in. And what was not right is the fact that everybody knew in Canada that the new crop was going to be very good, and the price was going to be very low. And so what they did, they just sold and got rid of old crop, most of it, and he went to Algeria. So with the crash of the price on new crop, everybody had to sell the old crop at very, very low price. And today's price on whatever lentils in Algeria is lower than in Canada, which does not make sense, you know, in a way. But they had to get rid of it, you know. So that's what's going on. And so, so I don't think we should not expect to have any demand for the next probably 4 months.
How do you explain this increase on the demand? Because usually you used to import the same figures every year, but this year in particular, the figure is much higher. Do you have can you explain that, please?
Of course. The other factor that really did play in Algeria was the fact that wholesalers became importers. So we, as an importers, we kept importing the same quantity. But new players who are wholesalers came in and imported. So there was no way, as soon as you import more than 60,000 tons, nobody makes any profit. So that's one. So actually, if Algeria consumes about 60,000, with these wholesalers that did import, so we end up like 80,000 tons. There's no way, you know. So I think, that's my suggestion, I think that traders should make sure who they are selling to. You know, if they see some, you know, wholesalers whom they already are our clients, they go in there, they go to Canada, they grab a bag in Algeria, in the market, they take the address, they take the number, they call a supplier, and boom, the supplier, you know, he has to sell. We are here to make money, right? So he would sell to anyone. That's not right. I think they should look at it in a very careful way, you know, by knowing who they are selling to. So that doesn't help for us. It doesn't help them because they're not going to see any demand from us. So we're both losing.
So the volume has not changed. Is that more players have come?
Absolutely. If you have more players, there's no way that anybody makes any profit anyways.
Your very personal view about Middle East in general and more in Turkey about both supply and demand on green lentils and the shift from
I understand
growing to importing.
I don't want to talk about the statistics. You asked me about the Middle East. Everyone in this room knows how many tons every country is buying. Only we need to say the game changers. Game changer in this Middle East is the production numbers. And Turkey produces little bit Syria and maybe some Iran. So Turkey's production, we are expecting around 10 to 15,000 ton maybe, because some of the friends I talk here, they said 8, some said 19. So 19 plus 8, 27, take the half, 13 and a half. So this is the common sense today. If you look at the consumption side in Turkey, we are presuming since years that we are consuming 50,000 tons. So if you, this is including the seeds, etc., for this small production. So the gap of around 25, maybe 30 is to come from some other sources to Turkey. And mostly this is Canada. Another game changer is Iran in the Middle East. You know, Iran population is very big and one of the main consuming country in the region. And these people, they have very little local production, but this year they have financial troubles. They have the money, but they cannot pay it, so that's a very unique situation. So these two countries will be a game changer in the region. So basically, that's all I want to say. If you don't have any further question.
What about the lentils going through the borders? Is that volume being increased every year?
Lentil?
The cargo in general sold to the foreign countries? The
Transit businesses,
transit
you mean,
business,
yeah. I mean, depends on the freights. Turkey is, you know, geographically well located. It is neighbor to very well-known countries by everyone in this table: Syria, Iraq, Iran, and anytime, any moment, you can have problem any one of the borders. So the freight is changing, so that is the problem for us. But you should, if you notice, most of these countries, their population, most of the population are living the close places to Turkey. So although the freight differences are not very big, people prefer to get product through the Turkey. But the freight, because of the border problem with, I mean, in the border, the problems increased the freight. So mostly the product is going through Bandar Abbas or Qasr or Akabe. These places became more popular for us, for the exporters from Canada, to the destination. So mostly we receive for the local production, we can say, since few years.
Last panelist is Héctor Barragan from Sudespensa Barragan S.A. He's based in Colombia, and he's one of the most important players in South America as importers of green lentils. Héctor, welcome.
Okay, thank you, Albert. South America, the population is 400 million. We principally import lentils from Canada, USA, and Argentina. Sometimes we did from Turkey. And because of the free trade that we have with Canada, we don't pay taxes right now. The taxes are zero. The free trade with USA is coming on May 15, so that we, in Colombia, we can start to import lentils at 0% of duties. Colombia is the biggest importers on lentils. We import from 65 to 70,000 tons. Venezuela is an important player as well. Venezuela does 25 to 30,000 tons. Peru 20 to 25,000. Chile 14,000 tons, and Brazil 10,000 tons. At the start there, when Colombia started to import, we did from Chile, but Chile changed it to fruit, to different products, and our principal partner right now is Canada, and because of the free trade, we're going to start running business with USA as well. I think in Colombia we could increase our imports, our demand for lentils, for green lentils. We only buy green lentils like layer lentils and Rieslis. We could increase the quantities because the price of the beans, local beans, are very expensive, and maybe we could go to 80,000 tons.
I have questions in terms of quality for you, Héctor. Basically, in Colombia, you buy grade #2 lentils, and I'm hearing quite often complaints that some people cannot be competitive because the range of the price coming from the offer is very wide. How is it affecting to your day-to-day business?
Yeah, there is a distortion in the market in South America because of the different grades of #2 that we have, that we usually buy. But I think we always got very good price and very good quality. For example, we can find number 2s at 680 in bulk, but we can find extra 2 at 780, 800. And it is a problem for our market. It's a distortion, but it's not a fault for the industry. I think that we have the fault in our country as well, because we want good price and we go to low qualities. We have been telling our customers that if they want to buy better quality, they have to pay better prices. One important thing that I want to say is that Colombia buys as well low qualities, like number 3s. And in Colombia right now we have a lot of number 3s on the stocks, and that makes that the price of number 2s continue going a little bit down in our country. Thank you.
So maybe the information between seller and buyer should be more accurate to avoid this type of problems, right?
Yeah.
Greg, do you want to add something to this point? Because you know it's very controversial in terms of price and quality.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, what we've noticed about Colombia over the years is the transformation from a number 3 market to a much higher quality market. So we're seeing consumers that are looking for better quality. We're seeing number 2s, but we're also seeing number 1s now traded. Spanish size or sized number 1s are starting to increase into Colombia, which is a good thing. I think it just shows consumers now are in better financial position. I think the country is a much better country now. I was just in Bogota, visited Hector, and I was very impressed with the country. Very stable now, much stronger currency, very progressive, lots of investment in the country. Since free trade, of course, that's enhanced our ability to do business and be competitive. In terms of the number 2 quality issue, I think Canada does have to do some work in establishing better standards for especially wrinkled seed coats. This is a problem which has not been well defined in our current Canadian standards. What we've done instead internally is we've established internal maximum percentages of wrinkled seed coats according to what we believe is acceptable by the markets that we're dealing with. So we will not ship the low quality number 2 high wrinkled seed coated lentils to West Coast South America, in particular Colombia, knowing that the consumer there is expecting higher quality.
Is this already in the standards? Or?
This is our own internal standards, so we definitely recognize that the consumers there do not want a low number 2.
Do you mean Simpson seed standard?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this would be a Simpson seed standard. And so that's, I believe, an important component to the market, is that people will recognize a brand. They'll recognize the people who are shipping a good quality, and you know, you get what you pay for. I think that applies to everything that you buy as a consumer. So if you see a price that is $680 a ton and somebody else is saying that a number 2 is also $720 a ton, well, obviously the $40 per metric ton spread has to do with quality, and in this case there'd be more splits, more wrinkled seed coats. So that's a good standard, a good guideline for anybody who's looking at pricing from Canada, is that there's got to be something in the mix. It's very, very competitive out there, and there's not $40 a ton margin out there to be giving away. It has to be coming from quality to make up the difference. So we're pushing for a higher standard ourselves, and I think our country is having a standards committee review. And so I think Canadian standards, statutory standards, will be established in maybe by the next crop year, but we'll see. This is a government agency that's doing this, and typically governments don't move too quickly on standard changes.
Thank you.